Okay. Hi, and welcome to Happy Hour with Cooper. Welcome to another segment of our weekly hangout. I'm excited to see you guys again. So, please, everybody tuning in, say in the chat hello and your name and where you're tuning in from. Something cool is we have now joined Facebook Live as well as YouTube. Apparently I'm playing wine pong, guys. So according to Facebook, we couldn't make Facebook let us go live without saying we were playing a game. Hi Jeff, how's it going? So yeah, I guess I'm playing wine pong. This is dangerous. Beer pong is dangerous. Drinking the same amount but with wine would be even worse. So today we're going to start off with Cab Franc. So I'm going to pour myself a glass because I am itching to try a little bit of Cab today. Welcome to here, as I always mention, it's super hot. It's a windy, cold, rainy, droopy day. Just perfect for a couple bottles of warm, delicious Cab Franc. And and maybe we'll talk about, we're going to talk about charcuterie today. So, as some of you may know, charcuterie is kind of like the go-to wine pairing, especially for big, bold reds. And I kind of thought, you know what, when I'm going to do Cab Francs, I should probably talk about cured meats and aged cheeses and things like that. So I'm going to bring out a charcuterie board and kind of go through the mechanics of it and what you can do to pair charcuterie with wine and which wines go best with which types of charcuterie. Hello mother, good evening. Hello Jackie. I see Kim Lawton on Facebook. So guys, grit and bear with me. I may get confused sometimes. I have two chats open now because we're on two different platforms. I'm going to have to, split my attention a little bit. For the first time I can also see myself talk, which is interesting and kind of weird. I may have to not look at the video of me as I'm moving around. It's kind of distracting. So let's talk about a Cab Franc. We have done our Cab Franc before. Hi Michelle from Pemberton. Cool. Thanks for tuning in. So we have tried our Cab Franc before, but we haven't on camera done our Cab Franc Reserve. So I wanted to kind of talk about the differences and how Cab Franc can, evolve over time. And so that's having both of them in a bit of a vertical is definitely fun for me. Hi Paul, how's it going? Well, welcome to June. I guess I should say it's June 5th. For my mother's benefit, happy birthday to my brother who just turned 33. I just totally remembered. Hi Margaret, hi Kelly. Oh my God, we've got people on Facebook. This is cool. Yay! Okay, so Cab Franc. Cab Franc is a grape that has a long storied history. It is where Cab Sauv came from. Cab Franc is planted in Europe in several different regions, but the most popular and most well known is Bordeaux. And before Cab Sauv kind of came around, Cab Franc was kind of with Malbec actually, one of the major grapes planted in the Bordeaux region. In the 1900s, like I think 1930 or 40, Malbec was almost completely killed off in Europe. So during that time, Cab Franc and Cab Sauv even became more widely planted in Bordeaux. So as we are now, Cab Franc is one of the blending grapes in Bordeaux and commonly in Canada in Meritage. And Meritage and Bordeaux is basically the Western, non-French version of Bordeaux. I can't say it is Bordeaux because I'll get sued. So yeah, so Cab Franc tends to be actually easier to grow than Cab Sauv, which is weird why they would make a grape that's not as easy to grow, but Cab Sauv has different blending qualities and aging qualities than Cab Franc, and so I guess and especially within the Bordeaux region, it worked better with Merlot as time went on. However, I'm thankful Cab Franc is still planted. If not, it wouldn't have made its way to BC, found fertile ground, and be one of the best growing reds, in my opinion, in BC, one of the wines that really shows off. So with this guy, our classic Cab Franc is one of the wines that we've gotten a lot of attention for. And it is drastically different from a traditional Canadian Cab Sauv. It's got a lighter hue, a little bit less overt tannin, some definitely red fruit, not just dark red fruit, which is really cool. I think I said hi to Kelly. I keep trying to make sure I'm talking to everyone. And yeah, so it's just got a beautiful color. I've fallen for this wine. I've always been a bit of a Cab Franc fan. It's just something, I think it isn't as heavy or overpowering as some of the Cab Sauvs that people produce, especially some of the Californian ones. And Cab Sauv is kind of overdone, but with Cab Franc you get it a little bit more delicate. Yeah, it can have a little bit more residual acidity and can come off as a little bit more bitey on certain things. Maybe not as naturally full-bodied as a Cab Sauv would be. However, I think it definitely has, quite a bit of merit as a wine. So let's, take a sniff. Is anybody drinking Cab Franc right now, or Cab Franc Reserve? Please let me know what you're drinking. And again, if anybody has just tuned in, please let me know where you're from. If you're here, say your name. I would love to know who all is watching. I am excited. We've got lots of people tuning in today on 2 different platforms, which is pretty cool. Yeah, thanks guys for tuning in. So I'm gonna have a sip because I've been kind of talking, and I'm gonna sip. So as I said, it's not, our Cab Franc, it's got a smooth, almost, understated body at the start, and it kind of evolves as you take your sip. I like this one for the fact that it does have every sip is different. Not all wines do that, not even all Cab Francs, but our classic Cab Franc has stages. It starts off with a plummy, dark raspberry, and then you get little hints of a lighter raspberry, and some so you do notice the oak on this. There's a little bit of a pepperiness, a little bit of almost a sweet baking spice. This one definitely almost has even an espresso quality on the finish, which is pretty cool. And oh look, Colleen from our tasting room. I've been getting Colleen, or actually not getting, Colleen's been streaming us in the tasting room, so anybody who comes in can know that I'm talking, and I think that's pretty cool. Thanks, Colleen. And I'm glad you're enjoying the rosé, Mother. So yeah, that's a Cab Franc classic. I think it's pretty cool. And we'll move on to the Cab Franc Reserve. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Cab Franc Reserve. Yeah, I'm just grabbing my bottle off. I will be right back to my camera spot, I promise. And I get in trouble if I move too much, just so you guys know. Yeah, so here's our Cab Franc Reserve. This one's cool. So it's done in a little bit of the Passamento style. Passamento, I think I talked about it before, but it is it's an Italian style done primarily in the Veneto region, or the region of Valpolicella. So you'll see Passamento works with Ripasso and Amarones and even Reciotos. So Recioto being the dessert wine of the three and the original reason why they started doing Passamento style. So what it is it involves sun drying the grapes somewhere up to almost 6 weeks sometimes. And what that does is it concentrates the sugar and the flavor and reduces the moisture. You'll notice full Passamento style wines like the Amarones and the Reciotos end up being very expensive because it takes sometimes 3 to 4 times the amount of grapes to create the same amount of wine. And so it can be very, it's not as big, I should say, not as big amounts of wine made, and it can be very difficult or very expensive to make. I have had a fair amount of Amarone in my day. It was really cool to try a Cab Franc done in that style because the Valpolicella wines, Amarone, Ripasso, all the Valpolicella style wines, they're made with 3 grapes called Corvina, Rondinella, and Molinaro. And yeah, that's right, I memorized that a long time ago. Rattle off something that helped me pass my sommelier tests. But yeah, so those grapes are commonly almost only planted in Italy, and they're the ones that are done with the Passamento and the sun drying of the grapes. So to try other grapes that are different in character with this with the style, it does. I guess it's just intriguing for me, and I'm a wine nerd, so I understand that I'm special. Hi, Andrew. Oh, Andrew's going to be tuning in a little bit, but he's also on the chat. That's awesome. So yeah, so with this, one thing that the sun drying does, more than just concentrating flavor and concentrating the sugar and just overall the grapes, it also creates a warmer flavor in the wine. So when you do that, it sometimes gets almost overripe or stewed or cooked. A lot of wines that have this style tend to have a jammy quality. It's also prevalent in wines that are just, have a very, very sunny climate and so tend to just get a lot of heat and tend to ripen really fast. You can get that as well. Hi, Claude. Nice to see you. That's exciting. I think I met Claude at Vancouver Wine Festival. I'm pretty sure. That's really cool. So, our Reserve Cab Franc. Please, if anybody's having this right now, please let me know. Chime in with what you think about it. If you're still getting to your Cab Franc Classic, please chime in about that. Thank you, and thank you guys. Thank you for tuning in. I'm really excited. Okay, so this has that same pepperiness, but the fruit character is definitely a bit more, like, not purple, but there definitely are, like, there's currant and there's blacker notes to the red fruit on this. You do almost get like a black cherry, and so it definitely does have almost like a darker feel for a wine, and that's, it's more ageable. It's meant to age longer, and yeah, that's the Cab Franc. We're gonna switch to Andrew right away here to our interview, and then we'll move back to the wines, and I'll talk about the charcuterie board. So I'm just gonna put my headphone in here, and we're gonna bring Andrew up. And hi Andrew, how's it going? I can't hear anything.
Oh, hello?
Andrew?
Yeah.
Hello? I see him, but I can't hear him.
Hello?
We're having a technical moment, guys, sorry.
Darn it.
Alright, is it plugged in?
No, it's not. I got it.
Hello?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
It got it got pulled out. Hi, Andrew. How's your day going?
It's been a busy day.
Yeah, I can imagine what with, splitting your time between here and Soyuz. How is you said earlier today you said you were going into Oliver. How was your drive?
I guess I can't complain, but yeah, right now in the vineyard, I have a young block of a new Chardonnay clone. I think it's 548,
Okay.
and it's just starting flowering. So we were just trying to make some decisions about what we're going to do during flowering to make sure that this is the critical point in which, we want to make sure that we don't have botrytis later on.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to pick our sprays really carefully. And then at the same time, speaking of the Cab Franc, the main thing is that we want to hit that Cab Franc at the perfect timing, which is right around flowering and post-flowering, so that we've got the shoot thinning done right at that point, and then we've got a fairly aggressive de-leaf happening on the morning side, so that we get full sun into the fruit zone.
Okay.
And we start managing our yields to get the premium quality. So we've been waiting on the Cab Franc for... and so our target date is at about a week from now.
Okay.
And so it's about positioning the crew so that we've got everything that we need to get accomplished so that when the time comes, we can focus on that Cab Franc.
Yeah. About the Cab Franc, just so everybody knows, I got to sit among the Cab Franc and get some pictures taken of me today. They may show up on social media. I got to hang out with the vines and just with some of our food, and that was really, really cool. Thank you, Andrew, and I guess to your team for letting us hang out and maybe get in your way a little bit. Hopefully we didn't get in your way too much, but thank you so much. I did want to ask you a question about something you mentioned earlier. Can you tell people about botrytis, as you kind of just glossed over it, but most people won't know what botrytis is. So...
Okay, well, botrytis can be both a good thing and a bad thing. Some of my favorite wine would be a Sauterne or some botrytis-affected wines in Riesling. I guess Brett would be able to describe the characteristic better than I would, but if you taste the botrytis, it then tastes like botrytis, but it's kind of this waxy, I don't know. Brett, help me out here. What's
botrytis is like? Called.
It's a thing.
It's got botrytis. Well, botrytis is kind of another way of extracting moisture from wine. So it's a rot. It's a mold. But it tends to add almost a popcorny, caramelly nuttiness to the wines that it's on. Very great when you want a dessert wine. Not so great when you don't.
Yeah, and I've gone into lots of blocks because I used to work for some of the largest wine companies in the world, and I was part of the hand harvest crew. And the interesting thing about being a part of the hand harvest crew is you're either picking the best grapes or you're picking the worst grapes.
Ooh.
And when you're picking the worst grapes, it's all about just trying to salvage a block that has been decimated by sour rot, waterberry, and botrytis.
Okay.
So botrytis can be definitely not such a good thing, and having to hand sort those things.
Yeesh.
So anyways, and then it can throw off the chemistry in making the wine. So, and then they have to use enzymes and things like that. So the big part of what I do is I try to make sure that there is the best fruit available going into the winery, so that if there's quality in, then hopefully there's quality going out. So, is that sufficient for botrytis?
Yeah,
you did more of that
pretty
work than I
sufficient.
did. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I
know
just
it.
thought it was a chance to talk about it. I don't care if it's you or me explaining it. But I just wanted people to know that it's a thing most people don't understand. They think all molds, all rots, things like that are all bad, and I just like to talk about the different things, that tools of the trade, I guess. That being said, let's kind of talk about, what do you think is, I guess, like one of the most important things right now? What tools in your belt? We were talking about it earlier. And yeah, so what would you say is one of the most important things to manage in a vineyard and things that you use to manage vineyard?
Well, of course, the number one thing is irrigation.
Mm-hmm.
So probably 9/10 of my focus would be on irrigation, and we also put fertilizers in through the irrigation system.
Okay.
Many of them are organic. They can be anything from seaweed to phosphorus. So the big thing for me, so what happened this year was that our Cab Francs leapt out very early and very strongly.
Yeah.
And some of the other blocks started quite late, maybe because of some of the winter damage or frosts or, just something along those lines. So what I'm doing is I'm encouraging the blocks that are behind, and then I'm discouraging the blocks that are ahead, like the Cab Franc, so that they slow down. And then what I'm trying to do is get all of these, areas to just reach the top wire, maybe just below the top wire, just as it goes through flowering. And then suddenly I drop the amount of irrigation and nutrients that's available to those plants, as well as I shut down a lot of the microbes and make them create cysts, and just basically I shut down everything, make it into a desert. That's why we grow these vines in deserts. And so that discourages the vines from growing, and then we don't get any of the laterals. And from then, so we can turn the page, and instead of growing vegetatively, then we start developing fruit.
Okay.
And then at that point, I start giving them a little bit more water and some nutrients back, and I create a cocktail of nutrients that they need to develop the best fruit possible.
Okay.
So I take soil science very seriously.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah. So I'd like to just point out a couple of books here.
Okay.
This may be backwards, but
Okay.
Teaming with Microbes.
Okay. Teaming with microbes.
Yeah. So this is a really good book. It's very scientifically based, but it's very it's written for the average person like me to understand. And so they go into how important it is not to till your soil and how to develop your own microbial cultures in the soil. So that really changed my way of thinking. Instead of going for long irrigation sets, I went with shorter and more frequent irrigation sets to support the microbes. And then this is another one, teaming with nutrients, but using microbes to break down soil content so that there's more nutrients available to plants.
Okay.
And also there's another book that I can't find, but that's about the mycorrhizae funguses and how they break down things like woody structures to also provide water and nutrients to plants. So it's just being mindful about what's in the soil and getting past the idea of watering the vines and understanding that what you're doing is supporting an ecosystem.
Yeah. So Jeff wants to know if those are good for gardening for things other than grapes as well.
Oh, yeah. So this author, Jeff Lowenfeld's, actually met him. He's a really interesting guy.
Oh,
cool. He's a gardener, and he's done gardening articles, but he's based in Alaska.
Okay.
So that's his main thing.
Growing in Alaska?
I had to do,
just one second. If anybody else has questions for Andrew, please speak up and we'll field them to him. And then, okay, keep going, Andrew.
Anyways, I was like, okay, well, what works well in the plant world is obviously going to work well in the vineyard. Yeah. So I eventually said, wow, oh my God, Jeff Lowenfeld, I can't believe I'm sitting next to you, and then I was like, it changed the way that I irrigated the vines. And he said, well, how did that work for you? And I said, it was great. But see, there's a lot of science that's saying that even irrigation on a daily basis for short durations is better than longer periods of time. And I'm convinced it's because of the soil microbes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That's is every time Andrew comes on, he kind of just like blows up in my mind, tells me a bunch of cool stuff, and then I have to go read to catch up.
I'd just like to share that because, what happens in the vineyard is the same thing that happens for everybody, right?
Yeah.
So, in fact, I was talking to my neighbor, he's Portuguese. He's got this super hard soil, and he's got a whole bunch of ants that, are looking for aphids and the whole 9 yards, right? And, it's like, how do you break this cycle? You could dump a bunch of poisons, and stuff like that. Or maybe you can introduce predator species because you can buy them online. Or maybe you can, create compost that, you can build up your soil. There's so many ways of going about this.
Yeah.
And so anybody that's growing anything at all, I have something in common with them.
Hear that, Mother? You should read what he's talking about. You just completely redid your backyard and built a bunch of more gardening stuff.
Yeah.
This stuff is good
the
for
first
you.
Thing he says, the first thing he says is, back in the day, we'd grab all of this cow manure and we'd grab this and we'd grab compost and we'd till it all in. But what you're doing is you're literally being like Godzilla and you're completely destroying this entire community that's below the ground that has to rebuild itself, right? So, and, there's multiple different sorts of thoughts that's all about no-till. Like, you want to leave those things intact. You don't want to be so invasive. And so, like, we're debating this right now between, my lead hand and myself. He's very much a believer in compost piles, right? So, and everybody's like, compost pile, of course it's a no-brainer, right? For years, I was like, oh yeah, compost piles, we should get compost. It's just hard to really get this, and you can then create this microbial community. Well, the microbial community that's in a compost pile is not necessarily going to survive and exist in the soil when you put it out, right? So what does exist is what's already in the soil, so why wouldn't you feed those things to the soil? So one of the things that we did this year is we stopped spraying herbicides.
Yeah.
And we allowed the weeds to grow under row. We have this undervine tiller, but it's very shallow, so it doesn't it's not too invasive. We're only really working with mounds that are above the soil level. And we are building organic matter in the soil, right in place, dropping it with all the insects that are right there, so that all the microbes and funguses can just come up to the surface, eat it all, and then break down those nutrients and create a symbiotic is the word I was looking for, relationship with the vines.
Yeah. So
and and I think that's going to create complexity and richness in the fruit.
Yeah. So in a way, you're almost creating your own biome. Like
yes.
Yeah.
Well, not in a way. That's
you are creating your own biome. That's really flipping
Or
cool.
I'm not creating it. It's like it's not that I'm in control.
Yeah.
So it's not me that's creating it. I'm supporting it.
Yeah. And maybe adding to it or manipulating it a little bit.
Yeah. See, that's the thing is I don't know enough. Like at some point you got to tip your hat to the mystery of the universe, right?
Fair.
So this is another point is we're already changing the natural ecosystem by irrigation, right? So on one hand, it would be great if whatever exists would coexist with the vines, but at the same time, it's not exactly natural, but we'd like to keep it natural. So is Rhonda on the call? But we're just working with Rhonda, who's a very smart person and is helping us out. And she thinks that the natural ecosystem, and all the plants in that ecosystem, all plants generally, whatever they don't need, because they create even more sugars and, there's more energy in that plant than what they need. So often they're just going to create an exudate. They exude it through their roots. And that's why these microorganisms and the funguses have this coexisting relationship with these vines. So they take these exudates and they serve the vines in many ways. So if the vine is short on phosphorus, for example, these microbes will go out and mine the phosphorus that's in the soil particles and break it all out, give it to the plant. And so there's like this economy that's happening, right?
And it's just so crazy to me, like how these different puzzle pieces just evolved into existence, and it's in a way just so mystifying and beautiful, and I'm so happy I get to talk to you about this stuff and learn from you. I think we are running out of time, Andrew, so I wanted to just say thank you so much. And we will bring you back. But thank you so much for waxing poetic. One last thing. Jeff just wants to say that since I'm going to help building his shed, he wants you to come help him make his grow his garden. So apparently he's just going to export us to Calgary, and we can help him out. Well, next time I'm coming through, Jeff, maybe I'll bring Andrew with me. Anyways, thank you so much, Andrew. Appreciate it.
Thanks
You
for
enjoy
listening,
your
everybody.
weekend.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. So, everybody, thank you for listening to Andrew. I think he is definitely I could listen to him for hours. Is basically what I'm saying. He could talk to me forever, and I'm pretty sure he'd be happy to. He likes to talk about, I think he's really passionate about what he does, and I love that, and it works because I'm also passionate about what I do. Not very good in the garden. I have some skills, but I definitely think it just blows my mind what he can do with grapes and with soil and irrigation. We're going to move on to our charcuterie, so we can talk about it a little bit. And yeah, so I kind of forgot which glass is which. I think this is a classic. Okay, so this is kind of a traditional red wine. Can we see this? Yes. This is a traditional red wine style charcuterie board. It will work with an oakier white wine or an aged white wine, like our Riesling Reserve or our White Gold. Even our not, like a neutral oaked Chardonnay, our classic Chardonnay would work with this because it's acidity and it's tropical. This is definitely, though, a beautiful board to have with our Pinot Noir or with our Cabernet Franc Classic or any of our reds, really. Maybe the PTG would be a little bit too fruity to go with this, but it might work too. So you're going to see, this one is a meat and cheese. Charcuterie boards tend to be cured meats, aged cheeses, some sort of delivery system. So we have crostinis drizzled with balsamic. And then you'll see as the wine styles change, you'll see different kinds of things show up. You'll see dried fruit, and nuts, honey, commonly, especially if you're doing a charcuterie or a dessert charcuterie board, or like a lighter white wine. Like if you're going to do Riesling and Pinot Gris, you'd see some dried mango, and some dried apricot, especially from here, from this region, lots of apricots. But with red wine, you can see more savory and peppery things. So we have like a shaved Parma, like just ham, really thin, dry aged and cured. And this will be a pepper salami, and I think I totally didn't write down which each meat was. But will be a spicier salami style. You're gonna find salami is kind of the best friend. Happens a lot. Is my laptop in the? Okay, sorry. But you'll see salami is really common, and then cured, salted ham alternatives. Like you'll see prosciutto, pancetta, very commonly with red wines, and then so we have a Gouda. And then we have an aged cheddar. Like this cheddar, I don't know if you can see, this is a goat cheddar, and it almost has striations of blue cheese starting on it. which is super cool. It's very sharp, very, very great for like a spicy, aromatic red. It's got a full body. This is just fantastic for it. And then I believe we have like an Asiago. So Asiago, any kind of, is the softest or one of the softer of the Parmesan family. So any of the Parmesans would work wonderfully with a red as well. That saltiness, that bite from Parmesan, the older a Parmesan gets, the more it has almost not an acidity, but it really just has a very strong presence in your mouth. It helps balance out some of the more bitter tannic characteristics of wine. And then, bread. So you can't have meat and cheese and fruit without a little bit of bread. You often on cheese boards like this, you'll see a goat cheese. You'll see something really soft. You'll see a cream brie or a double cream brie, or I think we have a Lady Jane, which is the name of the cheese that we're using for a soft cheese right now. And so that's like it's very, very soft inside. And that's going to be with the creamier, softer cheeses. Those are really good for acidic wines. They're really good for our rosé would go really well with like a cream brie, and our reserve Riesling would go really well with a cream brie. Overall, I think all wine and all meat and all charcuterie just should be in front of me at all times, but that's me. This is my favorite kind of food. I like finger food. I like cheese and meat on a board. I like dried fruit. This is pretty cool. Just to this is the kind of thing I'll have on a Friday afternoon after work. Oh wait, I'm gonna have it after work. Yay! Does anybody have any questions about charcuterie boards? Or charcuterie at all, or where to get charcuterie or anything like that? It tends to be things you can get from any grocery store. Back home in Edmonton, I have a place I like to go called the Italian Center. They have tons of meats. The other place that's really good is Rolf just was sending me a message, but I don't know what he was trying to say. I'll have to read it. I think he was talking about, is there a book that we about charcuterie called Boards? Really? Okay, thanks, Rolf. Okay. I don't know about here, I'm still learning about this side of the world, but in Alberta we have Italian centers and we have Loblaws city markets. I don't know if they've made it out here. I know there's Urban Fare, and Urban Fare is like that. They tend to be a more, they have a more sophisticated deli, and you tend to get a lot more local meat, like cured meats and cheeses, and I tend to really, really explore those. I like the out of the way independent grocers. You find more local things there, and when it comes to cured meats and cheeses and even dried fruits and stuff, it's a lot more fun to go with local stuff. You find intriguing combinations. So overall, that's charcuterie in a nutshell. I could probably talk about it more. I could say, the different kinds of salami and why you do different ones. But overall, I'd say most of the time you're wanting for the meats, you're gonna want something fairly spicy, a bit gamey, or salty. I tend to like spicy meats because they just they at least take up a little bit of space in your mind. It's not just wine, help break up the momentum, so you can try different wines while you're eating the charcuterie board. And then you always, as I said, you need a delivery system. But the delivery system is also a palate cleanser. So it's great to have crackers because between wines, or between meats and wine pairings, or cheese and wine pairings, you can cleanse your palate with something a bit more basic, and it will help you, taste to your fullest potential. So that is that. So happy Friday, everybody. Thank you for joining in. I think that's pretty much it for me today. Like and subscribe below, share to your friends. And have a wonderful Friday. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next week.